Hello, welcome. My name is Ann Pomerantz, and I'm an English language specialist at La Universidad Católica del Norte in Coquimbo, Chile. And today you're watching Foundations of English Medium Instruction, Module 1. Let's get started. Today we're talking about communicative competence, and our question is, what does it mean to know a language? In the 1960s, the linguist Noam Chomsky revolutionized the study of linguistics by positing that knowing a language requires knowing the rules, the principles, and parameters that underlie the production of all grammatical utterances. For Chomsky, knowing a language involved knowing these underlying rules. For him, the focus was on competence, or one's knowledge about language. Chomsky and his fellow linguists were much less interested in performance, or the idea of language in use. Quickly, however, many critiques followed. Del Hymes, a linguistic anthropologist, noted, "There are rules of use without which the rules of grammar will be useless." For Hymes and other linguistic anthropologists, as well as sociolinguists and language educators, the idea that language could be reduced solely to a bunch of rules or principles or parameters didn't fully account for how we use language in social situations, how we know what variety of language to use when and with whom, how we create longer stretches of utterances, and how we resolve communicative problems. Hymes, as a linguistic anthropologist, coined the phrase communicative competence to understand how real people used real language in real situations. He was interested in empirically observing and delineating what people need to know and do in order to communicate appropriately, or in ways that people might expect in different social contexts. Quickly thereafter, many language educators took up the idea of communicative competence and aimed to specify what this might look like in a language classroom. Canale and Swain, in the 1980s, posited that communicative competence in a language education setting might be thought of as containing four parts: linguistic competence, sociolinguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence. Linguistic competence would include the ability to form grammatical utterances. This would be akin in many ways to Chomsky's idea of linguistic competence, the idea that one needs to know vocabulary, grammatical patterns, idioms, and all aspects of how to put all those pieces of language together. Sociolinguistic competence is closer to what Hymes was talking about with communicative competence, the ability to form utterances, the ability to use language in ways that align with social norms and expectations. For language educators, this would include knowing when to use more formal or informal language, how to adjust one's speech or one's writing for different social situations, how to be polite or impolite in intentional ways. Discourse competence in a language education setting refers to the ability to produce strings of utterances in a coherent manner. Put simply, this is the idea of producing longer oral or written texts in ways that make sense. For many language learners, it's easy to produce a word or two, but putting all of the words together, creating coherence, using pronouns and antecedents, using various verb tenses to string things along and show when in the sequence of time various occurrences happened. This would be discourse competence. And finally, strategic competence would cover the idea, the ability to resolve communicative problems with language, pausing, asking for help, using expressions like when one is searching for a word. These would be aspects of strategic competence. As an EMI teacher, you might think about what aspects of communicative competence your students need to develop in order to function appropriately in the communities in which they aim to participate. What kind of competencies do they need? What kinds of linguistic, sociolinguistic, discourse, and strategic competence do your students need? And how will you aim to teach your students these competencies? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.